Did anybody wonder what this slide was doing up here? Because Robert missed that part of the script, but we'll come back to it. The theme here we're talking about is that these predictions are inherently short-term in nature. There are many, many interesting things to be said about robots on Mars and artificial intelligence, and one day we'll get to those, but that's not this year. All of our predictions are deliberately aimed at the shorter term. So thank you, Robert, for the introduction. I'm going to kind of go through the slides. We sort of need to do a couple of these. One of the things that we try to do is we try to score ourselves. We do a scorecard. How accurate are our predictions? So what I'm going to do is I'm very quickly going to go through, I hope this is the right one. That's sort of the wrong image here. These are the 2009 predictions scorecard. More blue dots is good. You probably, listen, our team, our graphics team spent 6 months trying to figure this out. And I think more dots is good is a simple message to take away. Just so you understand, 5 dots is, to give you one example, this last year, a year ago, at this time, I talked about netbooks, and I asked, who here in the room has a netbook? And a year ago, 2 hands went up. I'm going to do it now. Who here in the room has a netbook computer? Seems like a few more. So our prediction last year that the netbooks, at the start of the year, people dismissed them as toys and said they wouldn't sell. The highest other estimate on the street for netbooks was 25 million units. Our prediction was for between 40 and 50 million units. They, in fact, looks like they sold about 44 million netbooks this year. So we give ourselves five little circles for that one. We think we did pretty well. On the other hand, as you can see in the media, once again, we did pretty well, but you can't help but notice that one of those there's no blue circles. There's just little hollow, empty, staring circles. That's not good. What are we talking about with that one? You may remember in Montreal last year, I brought around a Wi-Fi radio. It looked cool, it was sexy, I don't know, it was $299, and I had one. I may be the only person in Canada who bought one of these last year. I'll do the hands if you, who here owns one of these aside from me? Yep, that's pretty much what I thought. You can't even buy them in Montreal? Okay, well, don't worry, you can't buy them in Toronto anymore. Nobody buys them, they stop selling them. It's funny how that works. So that one wasn't so much of a hit. Wi-Fi radio, by the way, people are still listening to radio over the internet. They're just not doing it on standalone devices. And then on our telecommunications scorecard, as you can see, once again, start of the year, start of a recession, Deloitte comes out and says, guess what? Worst recession in 70 years, but people are going to spend more money on smartphones and they're going to move away from cheaper phones. Nobody believed us. As you know, smartphone growth last year well in excess of the cheaper phones and huge changes in the market. Mythbusters, I don't know if you... if anybody wants to join Deloitte and join our Photoshop team, I think we obviously need a little help here. Yeah, that's well anyway. But what we're trying to do with our predictions is attempting to be counter-consensus. Try to be Mythbusters. I'm going to give you just 2 examples of that, one from last year and one actually from this year. At the beginning of last year, we talked about how 3D was going to become an enormous thing in the movie theater. A lot of people thought we were nuts. Do you remember what our prediction was? Global 3D sales for all of 2009 would be in excess, for the first time, up 4 times from an ever previous record, would be $1 billion US. I think Avatar did that in the opening weekend. So we were kind of a little low on that one, but nonetheless, our prediction that 3D was going to be huge absolutely came true and was very much counter-consensus at the start of 2009. And so, of course, hello, press table. I'm not making fun of you when I say this, but I'm just going to... The media looks at Deloitte and says, they like technology. They like 3D. So they come to us already and they go, 3D TV. It's going to be huge this year, isn't it? And actually, our prediction for 2010 is we don't think it's going to be. And I'm going to do it really, really quickly. It's not even one of our official Canadian predictions, but I can do this in about 3 seconds. Who here has bought a new TV in the last, let's say, 4 years? Okay, I did that wrong. Who here hasn't? The replacement cycle for TVs is between 7 and 10 years. Who here feels like shelling $6,000 out for a 3D TV this year? especially given that we don't know which standard's going to get, and you may end up owning the Betamax of 3D TVs. So 3D TV is going to happen at some point, but it ain't going to be 2010. It's probably not even 2011. We think all the stories you read out of CES in Las Vegas about 3D TV were a bunch of TV manufacturers who want to sell you more TVs, and almost nobody's going to buy them. So to give you an idea, that's why we're being myth-busting, right? We're not always going one way. We try to go counter-consensus. Now, Robert, I'm going to pass it back to you for a second or two. As you look at 22 predictions, even 10 Canadian predictions, what kind of broad themes emerge? So, Robert?
Thank you, Duncan. The mobile internet, I think we've all seen it. Consumers, business want access anywhere, anytime, on any screen. They're much more demanding in terms of what they want. If they want video streaming, if they want high def, they've got pretty high needs. On the flip side, they don't want to spend the money anymore. So we're dealing with a situation where the mobile internet is going to be important. We need to develop new applications to satisfy the consumer's needs, but the costs have to be low. So that's sort of the broad theme we've seen this year on the mobile internet. Flexible and nimble. This is a picture of my yoga instructor. And for the guys that I train with, this is our next move. Flexible and nimble. The challenge here is, you've got consumers on opposite ends of the spectrum. You've got the early adopters. They want everything that's new and everything that's exciting, high-end technology. And then you have those that have been doing things the way they used to do it 50 years ago. So the challenge is, how do you adapt to the reality? You've got to be flexible. You've got to be able to offer both consumers the solution, because there's money on both sides of the spectrum. And you also have to adapt. And when the timing is right, you've got to make a decision and then make the choices. So that's flexible and nimble. I'll let Duncan go through the predictions, and I'll come back and closing remarks.